Imagine a game where you start as a character whose life is torn apart by a worldwide militaristic empire. You think you're in the right and your enemy is obviously the bad guy, but then the game does something twisted. It puts you in the shoes of a captain within that very same empire. Then suddenly you start to see things. Not a simple story of good versus evil, but a world drowning in 50 shades of gray. Yeah, I know that was kind of lame. Beneath it all, you start to develop this dark, nagging suspicion that this endless conflict isn't an accident. This is the core premise of Duet Night Abyss, a game that has you playing from two opposing sides of war. But if you were to ask me about my theory after playing the game, it's all a setup to uncover a demonic plot deep enough it threatens to shatter the very meaning of right and wrong. And that all starts with one question: who's the real monster here? In a world of dark fantasy, we're used to diving in alone. We're the solitary knight, the lonely witcher, the one warrior fighting back against a sea of darkness before gathering the sacred warriors of light. But what happens when a game fractures that perspective? What if it forces you to see a dying world through two completely different sets of eyes? That's the brilliant idea that the developers have created at the heart of Duet Night Abyss, a new-ish free-to-play anime-style action RPG for PC and mobile. On the surface, it's got the flashy, looter-shooter-inspired combat we know and love, but just under that is a narrative structure so ambitious and a world so bleak that it seems poised to recontextualize everything you do. The game is set in Atlasia, a land where magic and machinery coexist in a tense, uneasy balance dominated by rival factions and stalked by demons. And into this spiral of suffering, the game throws you in as two protagonists from opposite sides of a bitter conflict, their paths destined to collide. I know this sounds like the plot summary on the back of a book, but I went into this expecting just another action RPG. However, what I found was a story set up far darker and more questions of morality than I could have ever anticipated. Henshin go go baby, what's good guys, Yoku here, and this video is sponsored by Duet Night Abyss. Their latest update of version 1.4, Silver Torrent's Rising Star, was released on June 2nd with a number of jam-packed updates. Let's talk about it.
Oi, don't move. Who are you? I didn't see you on the platform. Where have you come from?
The game opens up with a genius narrative starting us off with two protagonists. On one side, we have the Fox Hunter, someone living their life as peacefully as they can until the militaristic Hyperborean Empire invades and takes their childhood friend Berenica. Of course, this creates some kind of personal loss story of being pushed into a fight for survival against a massive, oppressive machine. Definitely reminds me of playing Final Fantasy VI as a kid. But just as you start to get comfortable with the protagonist, the game suddenly flips the script entirely. You're now put in control of a military captain within that same empire. And from their perspective, they're not the typical comic book villain. They're part of a vast established order, cough cough Star Wars. Their fight is framed as one for stability or justice. They see the other side as chaotic, dangerous, and a threat to everything they've built. I don't know, sounds kind of familiar. This dual narrative structure is a direct clashing of what we as humans go through our day-to-day lives as in a comfort zone. The game refuses to let you settle into the simple I'm a good guy role. Imagine a mission where, as the Imperial Captain, you secure a rebel cache. Then you play from the other side and discover that the cache was medicine for a plague-ridden town. This is how the game forces you as the player to start questioning morality. Who's right versus who's wrong? The men trying to feed their families in desperate times, or the officer simply following orders to keep the peace? At this current point in the story, the game will not answer that, and that refusal is a major plot point. This isn't a story that you're simply told. It's a conflict you're forced to live from both ends. As someone who read a ton of dark fantasy books and spent years playing games definitely not meant for kids, I absolutely love this narrative design. And here's where version 1.4 Silver Torrent Rising Star does something really interesting. Let's understand why I first have to talk about the actual problem running around in the world. Because the war in Atlasia isn't just Empire bad, rebels good. It's rooted in something far older and uglier than that. A racial conflict between two groups of people, the Solarians, who form the backbone of the Hyperborean Empire, and the Charons, an ancient Horn race with superior physical ability and a greater aptitude for magic. The messed up part about that is when Charons reach adulthood, some undergo a process called deterioration, which is a rare awakening of incredible power. But those who fail, and I guess most of them do, they lose their minds entirely and become filthoids, which are destructive, uncontrollable, and from the Empire's perspective, perspective proof that the Charons are, in their words, demons' children. Again, all of this is starting to sound too close to real life history. So the Empire doesn't just fear them, it systematically crushes them. History has been rewritten to frame a past Charon uprising as their fault. Their rights have been stripped down to almost nothing. In the very city of Ice Lake where the new version takes us, Charon kids were scavenging through trash cans in the cold just to survive. And the way I viewed it in the story was their only way out was simply to become a laureled Charon. They would have to earn the Empire's approval through exceptional service and maybe, just maybe, be granted equal rights with Solarians, which is basically a narrow path designed to feel like mercy while the system remains intact. This is the world the Forsakens are fighting back against. And here's what makes the Forsakens genuinely interesting as a faction to me. They aren't thieves. They don't rob vaults. They don't kidnap for ransom. The moment money enters a picture, that's how you know the Forsakens weren't involved. What they do is sabotage chemical factories, roadways, imperial residences, whatever the case may be.
I wanted bodies on the ground. And what did you do? You planted the charges where the masonry's thickest, as far from the crowd as you could manage. Not a single casualty. What was that, huh? Making deals with the Forsakens, then trying to keep your hands clean?
They're targeted, ideological, and funded by a mysterious figure known only as the Benefactor, one of the 3 wealthiest individuals across all of Atlasia, who sends letters to people in their darkest moments and offers them exactly what they need most. Kinda weird saying that out loud. Anyway, I don't know about you, but I'm not turning down all that money. Unless that money came with eternal servitude or some nonsense like that, then I'm definitely turning it down. But even knowing all of this, the game refuses to let you treat the Forsakens as the heroes of the story, because they also plant bombs in cities, they destroy public infrastructure, they resort to the same brutal extremes as the army they're fighting against, and that's the world 1.4 drops us back into, specifically into Ice Lake, which is visually overhauled for this update, and the brand new region of Floatia Bloomfield Station. A Victorian steampunk train hub built on rigid class hierarchy from common passenger carriages all the way up to first class luxury cabins. The kind of place where the Empire's social architecture is literally built into the infrastructure, where you can see the class divide just by walking from one end of the train to the other.
I just got hauled off to first class to play for the nobles. They asked for it first. Couple of notes in, and they start demanding waltzes.
And into this setting walks Flora, an elegant noblewoman, Umbro aligned, and on the surface, someone who fits perfectly into the upper tier of that train. She's polished, composed, exactly what you'd expect from someone embedded in Atlasia's power structure. Now, while I was learning more about the upcoming story, there was a new addition I couldn't stop thinking about: Flora's purpose. You see, Flora is one of the 2 new characters joining in this new patch. She's an elegant noblewoman, and on the surface, she seems like she fits into the world's aristocratic machinery perfectly. Except the marketing team's description of her story arc in this new patch keeps using phrases like her role and connection with others, or what's revealed, what's implied. Those words on top of the current plot design make me feel like Flora isn't just a new character, but something closer to a narrative device. Think about what this version appears to be doing structurally. You have the search for Berenica still going on, the personal string of fate that's been driving the Fox Hunter since day one. Then suddenly an unexpected new partner enters the picture. The Forsakens are still standing in the way, and now you have Flora, an aristocrat, navigating this same conflict from a position of social power that neither of your 2 main protagonists possess. So what I'm hoping for is that Flora represents a third perspective, not the rebel, not the soldier, but the insider who chose to see the system for what it is, the character whose connection to others forces you to reconsider relationships you thought were simple. In a game built on the idea that perspective shapes morality, introducing a character whose entire narrative function seems to be complicating the perspectives you already have is such a genius creative choice. And if the patterns from prior chapters continue, where the game does this whole foreshadowing that pays off chapters later thing, then what Flora reveals in 1.4 is going to matter a lot. Speaking of version 1.4, this is actually a great time to jump in because the update dropped June 2nd and the rewards they're delivering are genuinely massive right now. As 1.4 launches, you can log in and claim up to 60 free hourglasses for the whole version, plus a free character selector and a weapon selector, meaning you can start the game with whatever character you want and their signature weapon without having to grind or pay up front. Even veteran players have the ability to fully max a character without spinning a thing. On top of that, events and login bonuses give you another selectable character, your pick of Rhythm, Rebecca, or Fantasio, plus the exclusive character skin Black Gospel, the Glimmer character skin selection Fleeting Traces, and a Demon Wedge collection chest. There's also a lot more on top of that too. And remember, DNA prides itself on having no character gacha and no stamina limits. Every character and weapon, including Flora and Hilda in 1.4, can be unlocked through gameplay. So if you've been waiting for a reason to jump in or to log back in, this is genuinely one of the best times to do it. An easy to download link is in the description below.
Depending on your answer, I'll decide how to receive you. Quietly and without needless pain.
So overall, this patch is kinda OD. Flora is a character that a lot of the community has been waiting for, and now she's finally here. She's got this sick Puppet Master style gameplay that reminds me a bit of Kankuro, but seeing it in a looter shooter style combat wasn't something I originally expected. The weapon system also got a big overhaul with new Calamity weapons. To my understanding, you can now upgrade your weapons and attach custom effects to them called potentials. Basically, imagine something like running a ranged build where your weapon pulls enemies towards you every time you shoot. In a game like DNA where mobs come out in waves, I like combat choices like this a lot. You do, however, need trial rank 60 to unlock it through Abyss Expeditions, which is the new wave-based mode that I believe they want you to play in co-op. I think it's cool, but you let me know if it's worth the grind to you. Basically, if this previous version felt like the devs weren't listening, 1.4 is them responding. The weapon depth is there, the rewards finally make sense, and the roadmap is full of stuff the community has been asking for. Guild raids, character buffs, cutscene replays, and so on. It really feels like DNA is continuing to grow with every update. Duet Night Abyss looks like a game about a war between two enemies, but I think it's something more. It's a game about realizing you're fighting the wrong enemy in the wrong war for reasons that aren't your own, or something like that. Version 1.4 is pushing that theme further. New perspectives, a new region, new characters like Flora, who seem specifically designed to complicate everything you thought you understood about the story up to this point. The train is moving and the destination is getting darker by the chapter. The real secret you uncover may not be some final boss. It may be the revelation that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who convinced us to fight each other in the first place. In a genre full of lone warriors of light, Duet Night Abyss dares to suggest that the only way to win isn't to fight harder. It's to finally try and see the world through your enemy's eyes, which is honestly a breath of fresh air compared to the number of live service games I've played the last few years. That's a story I'm actually interested in watching unfold, especially with 1.4 having dropped on June 2nd. But let me know your own opinions on DNA, the huge version 1.4 updates, and Flora's overall purpose to the narrative. This was a pretty fun deep dive into the story of DNA, so if you're into stuff like this, consider subscribing. I drop multiple new videos every week, and I might just start adding stuff like this to the table if the reception is good enough. Anyway, link to Duet Night Abyss in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and shout outs to DNA for the sponsor. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later.